My daughter-in-law stepped out to take a call during lunch. Suddenly, a woman at the next table placed money in my hand and whispered, barely moving her lips, "Call a cab and get out through the bathroom window." I barely made it out alive. I know it sounds like something straight out of a movie, but I swear on the memory of my late Stephen that every word I'm about to tell you is true. And if you're watching this, if you've come this far looking for a story that makes you feel something real, I ask you to stay until the end. Because what I went through, I wouldn't wish on anyone, but I need you to know that it can happen to anyone, even you. And if this story hooks you, subscribe to the channel to keep hearing real testimonials like this one. That day was a Tuesday, March 14th to be exact. Valerie, my daughter-in-law, had invited me to lunch at the Gilded Cage, an extremely expensive restaurant in Beverly Hills that I never would have chosen. Too chic for my taste, too pretentious. But she insisted. She told me we needed to talk, that she wanted to fix things between us. I no longer trusted her, not after everything that had happened over the past few months. But a part of me, that foolish part that still hoped to get my son, Daniel, back, agreed to go. I was wearing my deep red jacket, the one Stephen gave me on our last anniversary. I fixed my hair, put on the pearl earrings that were my mother's. I wanted to look dignified. I wanted her to know that I hadn't broken. I arrived first. I sat at a table by the window where I could see the garden fountain. The waiter offered me water, and I ordered an herbal tea. It always calmed my nerves. Valerie arrived 15 minutes late as usual. She wore a fitted black dress, very high heels, her hair pulled back in a perfect bun. She looked like a magazine model. She smiled when she saw me, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. Harriet. "So good to see you," she said, giving me a kiss on the cheek that felt cold as ice. We ordered lunch. She ordered a salad. I ordered Southern grits. Because if I was going to be uncomfortable, at least I would eat something I liked. We talked about trivialities, the weather. Construction on Park Avenue. Nothing real. Then her phone rang. "Excuse me." Harriet. "This is important. I'll be right back," she said, and walked out towards the parking lot. I stayed there looking at my plate, feeling that weight in my chest that hadn't left me for months. I took a sip of my lemon water. It tasted strange, slightly bitter. I thought perhaps it was the lemon. That's when I heard the whisper. "Ma'am." I turned my head. At the next table, there was a woman about 65, short silver hair, thick glasses. She looked at me with an intensity that scared me. She slid her hand under the table, and suddenly I felt something in my palm. Bills. A $20 bill. "Call a cab right now," she whispered, barely moving her lips like a ventriloquist. "Go to the restroom. There's a window leading to the side alley. Get out there. Do not return to this table." My heart started pounding so hard I thought everyone in the restaurant could hear it. "What? Why?" "Your drink. I saw her put something in it while you were looking at the menu. Please, believe me. I'm a nurse. I recognize those things. Go. Now." The world stopped. I looked at my glass of water. That bitter taste. I looked towards the parking lot. Valerie was still talking on the phone, her back to me. I looked at the unknown woman. Her eyes told me, "We don't have time." I stood up. My legs were shaking. I walked towards the bathroom, trying to look normal, although I felt like I was going to faint. I went in, locked the door, and there it was, a small window with decorative bars that, thankfully, weren't secured. I climbed. At 68, I climbed like I hadn't since I was a girl on my grandmother's farm in rural Arkansas. I scraped my arm. My hose ripped. I fell out the other side into an alley that smelled of garbage and dampness. I flagged down the first cab I saw. I gave the address of my friend, Eleanor. And as that cab drove away from the Gilded Cage, as I watched Valerie rushing out of the restaurant in the rearview mirror, searching for me. I knew with absolute clarity a truth that chilled me to the bone. My own daughter-in-law had tried to kill me, and the worst part was that I knew exactly why. But to understand why we reached that point, I need to take you back 6 months. To the day I made the biggest mistake of my life, opening the doors of my home, thinking I was gaining a family when I was actually inviting the wolf in. It all started last September. I had just completed 2 years of widowhood. 2 years since Stephenos left, leaving me alone in that old colonial house in downtown Georgetown that we bought together when we were 30. 3 bedrooms, a central courtyard with rose bushes on us original hardwood floors. Our whole lives were within those walls. Stephen Prey also left me 2 commercial properties on University Avenue. One was rented by a pharmacy, the other by a clothing store. Between the rent and my $8,000 a month in pension, I lived comfortably, not rich, but without financial worries. I had money for my expenses, my medicine, and to indulge occasionally. My son, Daniel, would visit me every 2 weeks, always alone. Valerie almost never came with him. She claimed she had work, migraines, or some other excuse. And that was fine by me, because ever since I met her 3 years prior, something about her made me uneasy. It wasn't her way of dressing, always impeccable, nor her manner of speaking, polite but cold. It was something in her eyes, as if she were measuring, calculating, evaluating all the time, as if behind that perfect smile was a cash register counting numbers. But Daniel loved her, or so I thought. So I swallowed my doubts and tried to be kind. Everything changed when I turned 68. Valerie organized a dinner at my house. She arrived early with Kalkan, Daniel, Aken, and 2 of her friends whom I didn't know. She brought expensive food from a Japanese restaurant, sushi, scented candles, even ambient music on a portable speaker. "You deserve something special, Harriet," she said, arranging the dining table like a decorating magazine. During dinner, she began asking questions. Questions that sounded innocent, but that now, looking back, I see were pure strategy. "And how do you manage with this big house, mother-in-law? Isn't it too much to clean all of it? Do you still drive to run errands? Oh, at this age, city traffic is dangerous, isn't it? Do you remember to take your medication? Because I can set alarms on your phone so you don't forget." I answered her patiently. Yes, I cleaned. Yes, I drove. Yes, I took my blood pressure pills without a problem. But she insisted. "I just see you alone, Harriet, and I worry. Daniel worries too. Right, honey?" Daniel nodded, chewing his cute sushi without looking me in the eye. That night, after everyone left, I stayed behind clearing the plates. I found a paper napkin where Valerie too had scribbled something. Numbers, amounts, format house, 600K properties, 8K pension. I felt a chill. I put that napkin in my bedside drawer. I didn't say anything to Daniel. I thought maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe it was just harmless curiosity. How foolish I was. 2 weeks later, Valerie started visiting more often. Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays. Always with some excuse, bringing me Danish pastries. Accompanying me to the supermarket, helping me with paperwork. She checked my pantry as if I were incapable of buying food. She moved my things so they would be more accessible. She asked about my documents, my deeds, my bank accounts. It's just to keep everything in order, Harriet, just in case something happens someday. One day she arrived with Daniel and some suitcases. "Mom," my son said, with that ashamed little boy voice he used when he was little and broke something. "Valerie. And I thought it would be good to stay with you for a while, to take care of you. So you're not alone. I didn't want them there. But how do you say no to your only son when he looks at you like that, when he makes you feel that rejecting him would be cruel? Of course, honey, I said. This will always be your home. They settled into the front bedroom, the one that had been Daniel's when he was a teenager, and that's where my nightmare began. Because Valerie Haas didn't come to take care of me. She came to study me, to control me, to prepare me for what she had planned. Only I didn't know it yet. The first few days were tolerable. Valerie cooked, cleaned, smiled. Daniel left early for his job at the accounting firm and returned late. I tried to maintain my routine, my soap operas, my courtyard plants, my calls with my friend, Ruth. But little by little, so slowly I barely noticed, things began to change. First, it was the TV remote. I always left it on the coffee table. One day, it wasn't there. Valerie, had put it away in a drawer so it wouldn't get lost. Every time I wanted to watch something, I had to ask her for it. Soap operas, again. Harriet, wouldn't you rather watch documentaries? They're better for keeping your mind active. Next, it was my car keys. I had hung them on the hook by the entrance for 30 years. One morning, they were gone. Oh, mother-in-law, Daniel too needed them because his car is in the shop. He'll give them back tomorrow. Tomorrow turned into a week, then a month. When I asked for them, Valerie Madao looked at me with that expression of fake concern that I was starting to recognize. Don't you remember we agreed that you shouldn't drive anymore? You almost had a fender bender in the supermarket parking lot the other day. That was a lie. I had never crashed. But Daniel was there, nodding, as if it were true. Mom, it's for your safety. I swallowed. I didn't say anything, but I felt something break inside me. Then came the telephones in my bedroom and the living room. They weren't working properly, Valerie said, and she replaced them with a new cordless one that she kept hidden. If I wanted to make a call, I had to ask her for the device, and she always stayed nearby while I talked. My friend, Ruth, stopped visiting. When I asked Valerie if she had come by, she said, "Yes, she did, but you were asleep. I told her to call you instead." Ruth never called me. I couldn't call her either. I didn't have the phone handy. One afternoon, I looked for the photo album I kept on the bookshelf. Photos of my wedding with Stephen Hart, Daniel's birthdays, our trips to New Orleans. It wasn't there. "Where is my album?" I asked at dinner. Valerie looked up from her plate, surprised. "Which album?" "The photo album, the green one with embroidered flowers." "Oh, Harriet. That album has been in the same spot for months, up in your closet. Don't you remember?" I went up to look for it. It wasn't there. I came down. I insisted. She sighed, as if explaining things to a stubborn elderly woman was her daily penance. She went up with me, opened the closet, and there was the album, in a place where I never kept it. "See? Here it is. Maybe you moved it and forgot." Daniel looked at me from the doorway with something that looked like pity. That night, alone in my bed, I hugged Stephen's pillow and cried. Because I was starting to doubt myself. I was starting to wonder if I really was losing my mind. Valerie started calling me Grandma, even though they didn't have children. She did it in a sweet, condescending little voice, as if I were 5 years old. "Grandma, time to take your pills. Grandma, you better stay seated, don't want to fall. Grandma, leave it to me, you rest." I stopped being Harriet. I stopped being the owner of my own home. I became a nuisance with a diminutive name. My routines disappeared, my space shrank, my decisions no longer mattered. And the worst of all was that Daniel saw all this, and said nothing. My son, the boy I raised, the man I taught to respect his elders, looked at me as if I were a problem that needed to be solved. One night, I heard him talking with Valerie Moidiad in the kitchen. I was in my room, but the walls of these old houses are thin. How much longer are we going to keep this up? Daniel asked. As long as necessary, she replied. She's not ready yet. Ready for what? There was a long silence. Then, Valerie's voice, low but firm. For no one to doubt when we say she can no longer live alone. I covered my mouth to keep from screaming. Now I understood everything. They hadn't come to take care of me. They had come to erase me. The next morning, Valerie entered my room without knocking. I was just waking up. She brought a cup of coffee with milk and a white pill that I didn't recognize. Good morning. Harriet, I brought your medication. I don't take that pill, I said, my voice still hoarse from sleep. Yes, you do. It's the new one that Dr. Felix Mart prescribed, for your memory. What, Dr. Felix? I've been seeing Dr. Miller for 15 years. Valerie sighed, as if explaining things to a stubborn old woman was her daily penance. Harriet, Dr. Felix came 2 weeks ago. Don't you remember? He's a neurologist. Daniel brought him because you were forgetting things. I felt a pit in my stomach. No doctor had come, or if one did, no one told me. They were medicating me without my consent. I'm not taking it. Valeria's eyes hardened for just a second. Then the sweet mask returned. As you wish, but when Daniel finds out you're not cooperating with your treatment, he's going to worry a lot. She left the cup and the pill on my bedside table. She left, closing the door softly. I threw the pill in the toilet and watched it disappear with the water. That same week, Valerie organized what she called a family meeting to catch up. She invited my niece, Michelle, my cousin, Justin, and his wife, Amy, and Stephena's sister, Eleanor, with whom I hadn't spoken in years over a misunderstanding about some inherited furniture. They all arrived on a Saturday afternoon. Valerie had prepared gourmet BBQ, rice pudding, and coffee. My house smelled like a party, but I felt like something terrible was about to happen. We sat in the living room. Valerie served the coffee with the smile of a perfect hostess. I gathered you because I'm worried about Harriet, she began, her voice soft but firm. Daniel, and I have been living with her for 3 months, and, well, we've noticed things. My heart started beating faster. What kinds of things? Michelle asked. Valerie pulled out a folder, as if this were a business presentation. Look, here's the electric bill from 2 months ago. Harriet paid the same bill twice. She didn't remember paying it the first time. A lie. I never paid double. Here's a note the neighbor, Clara, left, complaining that Harriet and I knocked on her door at 3 a.m, saying there were strangers in the yard. There was no one. A lie. I never did that. And 2 weeks ago, she accused the cleaning lady of stealing a silver brooch. The brooch was in her jewelry box, where it always is. That did happen, but only because someone moved it and then put it back. Now I know who. My family looked at me with eyes full of concern. Eleanor, especially, watched me with something that looked like pity. Aunt Harriet, Michelle said, taking my hand. Is that true? I opened my mouth to defend myself, but how do you contradict evidence you didn't know existed? No, things didn't happen like that. My voice came out weak, unsure, and that was worse than any silence. Daniel spoke for the first time. Mom, no one is accusing you of anything, but hi, Dr. Felix Watt says these are normal symptoms of cognitive decline. We just want to help you. Cognitive decline? The words burned my throat. I am perfectly fine. Valerie Foz placed her hand over mine, squeezing it with feigned tenderness. Of course you are, Harriet. That's why we're here, to take care of you, so you don't have to worry about anything. Justin cleared his throat uncomfortably. So what are you proposing? That Harriet grant us power of attorney, Valerie said, pulling another paper from her damn folder. Temporary. Just so Daniel can help her with payments, paperwork, the complicated things. That way, she can rest easy. The room fell silent. Everyone looked at me, waiting for me to say yes. Eleanor was the only one who frowned. Power of attorney? That's very serious. It's for her own good. Valerie insisted. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw them all out. But a part of me, that part they were already managing to break, wondered, what if they're right? What if I really am losing my mind? I need to think about it, I whispered. Valerie smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. Of course, Grandma. Take your time. When everyone left, I locked myself in my room, and for the first time in my life, I felt fear of my own family. 2 weeks passed, 2 weeks in which Valerie tightened the noose even more. She controlled my food, telling me the doctor recommended a soft diet. She woke me up early under the pretense of giving me my pills. She followed me to the bathroom in case I fell. I was no longer a person. I was an object to be watched. Then came my birthday. 69 years old, 1 year closer to 70. 1 more year without Stephen. Valerie said she would host a special lunch to celebrate you as you deserve. Harriet. They started arriving around 2 in the afternoon. Michelle, with her husband. Justin and Amy. 3 distant cousins I hadn't seen in years. Stephen and his close friends. Gilbert and his wife. Even the neighbor, Clara, showed up with a key lime pie. My house filled with people, with voices, with the smell of gourmet BBQ and fresh coleslaw. But I didn't feel joy. I felt a knot in my stomach that wouldn't let me breathe. We sat at the dining room table. Valerie had decorated with coral-colored balloons and a happy birthday banner hanging on the wall. There was even a jazz band hired outside, playing Happy Birthday. Everything seemed perfect, too perfect. After the cake, Valerie stood up and gently tapped her glass with a spoon. Everyone fell silent. Family, friends, I want to take this special moment to talk about something important. My heart stopped. As you know, Daniel and I have been living with Harriet of these past few months, and it's been complicated. The faces around the table grew serious. Harriet is a strong, admirable woman, but we all grow older, and sometimes we need help, even if we don't want to admit it. I felt my cheeks burn. I wanted to get up, but my legs wouldn't obey. Valerie Funcius continued, with that familiar poisoned sweetness in her voice. A month ago, Harriet forgot to turn off the gas stove. I arrived just in time. We could have all died. A lie. An absolute lie. Last week, she accused the mailman of breaking into her room to steal money. The poor man almost lost his job. That never happened. And yesterday, she paused dramatically. Yesterday, I found this. She pulled out a manila envelope and extracted several papers. She placed them on the table. Unpaid receipts, overdue bills, service disconnection notices. Harriet has stopped managing her responsibilities. My niece, Michelle, picked up one of the papers. She read it. She looked at me with eyes full of concern. Aunt Harriet. I pay everything on time, I shouted, finally finding my voice. Those papers are fake. The silence that followed was worse than any shout. Gilbert. Stephen, his close friend, looked at me sadly. Harriet. No one is saying you're doing it with bad intentions. It's the illness, Valerie interrupted. Dr. Felix Das warned us this would happen. That's why we need to take action. Daniel placed his hand over mine. I pulled it away as if it burned. Mom, please, we just want to protect you. Protect me? My voice cracked. Protect me by telling everyone I'm crazy? No one is saying you're crazy, Valerie said with that unbearable calm. Just that you need support, and that's why, with the family's backing, we've decided Daniels will take temporary control of your finances. I haven't decided anything. Amy, Justin's wife, spoke from across the table. Harriet, if your son and daughter-in-law are willing to take on that responsibility, you should be grateful. Not all children take care of their parents like this. Grateful. That word pierced me like a knife. I looked around the table. All those faces I knew, those people who had shared my life, looked at me with pity, as if I were a senile old woman who no longer understood her own reality. No one believed me, not a single one. I got up from the table. My legs were shaking, but I managed to walk toward my room. Harriet. Don't go. It's your party. Valerie party, called out. I didn't answer. I closed the door. I sat on the bed. And there, surrounded by the murmur of voices in my own living room, celebrating my birthday without me, I understood the most painful truth. I was completely alone. My son had betrayed me. My family had abandoned me. And Valerie had won. Or so she thought. I couldn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the house gradually empty. The goodbyes, the fake laughter, the clatter of plates being washed. Then silence. Valerie came into my room after 11. She carried a glass of water and a pink pill. Your sleeping medication, Harriet. I don't want it. The doctor says it's important, so you can rest. I just stared at her. Her eyes were two bottomless black stones. Take it, please. We don't want you spending another night awake. I took the pill, put it in my mouth, drank the water. Valerie saw. Waited until I swallowed. She smiled, satisfied. Good night, Grandma. She closed the door. I waited 30 seconds. I got up. I went to the bathroom and spat the pill into the sink. I had hidden it under my tongue. Something told me I needed to be awake that night. I went back to bed. I lay down. I closed my eyes but kept my ears alert. Half an hour passed, then an hour. Then I heard their voices. They were coming from the living room. They spoke quietly, but the old house has its secrets. The ventilation duct running through the walls carried the sounds directly to my room. I got up slowly. I pressed my ear to the vent grill in the corner. How much longer are we going to wait? It was Daniel's voice, tense, tired. Almost there, Valerie replied. Tomorrow we go to the notary. With the power of attorney signed, we can move everything. Mom, what if she doesn't sign? Valerie laughed, a cold laugh that made my skin crawl. You saw how I left her in front of everyone today. No one will defend her. If she refuses, we request an incapacitation order. With Dr. Felixson's testimony and your family's, a judge will declare her incompetent in 2 weeks. I felt the floor open beneath my feet. The commercial properties already have a buyer. Valerie has continued. The pharmacy space for $390,000. The clothing store for Dumainu, $210,000. That's $600,000 in cash, liquid. And the house? The house is worth more. $4 million at least. But first, we have to get her out of here. Once she's admitted to the nursing home, we sell it without a problem. Admitted, nursing home. The words hit me like punches. I don't know. Valerie? Daniel's voice sounded doubtful. She's my mother. Your mother who loaned you 100,000 pay 2 years ago, and you never paid back, right? There was a silence. That was different. It was for the business that didn't work out. Sure, the business, and the B225 userness debt you have from poker. Or have you forgotten that the moln is collecting with interest? That he gave you until the end of the month, or they break your legs? My son didn't answer. Without that money, you're dead, Valerie hissed. Literally. So stop being sentimental. Your mother lived a long life. She lived what she had to live. Now it's our turn. And then what? We stay here? Valerie laughed again. Here? In this old house smelling of mothballs? Please, we sell everything, pay your debts, and leave. Richard already has the apartment in Miami Beach, waiting for us. The world stopped. Richard? Daniel's voice changed. What does Richard have to do with this? Oh, Daniel. Did you really think I was going to stay with you forever? You were useful. You have a respectable last name, access to your mother, the deeds. But once we have the money, let's just say I won't need you anymore. The silence that followed was long, thick, and terrible. Bitch, Daniel muttered. Maybe. But a rich bitch. And you're going to help me finish this, because if you don't, I'll call the mole right now and tell him where to find you. I heard footsteps. A door slammed. Then, nothing. I pulled away from the vent. My legs were shaking so much I had to sit on the floor. There it was. The complete truth. The plan laid bare. They didn't just want my property. They wanted to erase me, to lock me up, to let me die forgotten in some nursing home while they spent my life. And my son, my Daniel. The boy I carried in my arms, the one I taught to walk, the one I nursed when he had a fever, was willing to betray me out of fear, out of cowardice. To save his own skin. I cried silently that early morning. Not for myself, but for the son I had lost long before that night. But something else was born in me between those tears. Rage, determination. I wasn't going to let them win. If they wanted a war, they would have one. But this time, I would write the rules. The next morning, I woke up with a plan. Still blurry, but a plan. I needed to get out of that house. I needed help. But from whom? Valerie Sabar controlled my phone. Daniel Sani monitored my movements. I couldn't trust my family because she had already convinced them I was senile. Then I remembered something. Years ago, when Stephen died, there was a problem with the inheritance. Eleanor, his sister, claimed that some of her mother's jewelry should go to her. I explained that Stephen had left them specifically to me in the will. She got angry. We stopped speaking. But at that humiliating birthday meeting, Eleanor had been the only one who frowned when Valerie had mentioned the power of attorney, the only one who seemed to doubt. I had to contact her. That afternoon, when Valerie went out to the pharmacy, I pretended to be asleep in my room. I heard the door close. I waited 5 minutes. Then I got up. Daniel was in the living room watching television. I could hear him from the hall. I walked slowly towards the kitchen. There, hidden behind the refrigerator, was an old phone that Wakehide Stephen had installed years ago for emergencies. Valerie Dixie didn't know it existed. With trembling hands, I disconnected the cable and took it to my room. I plugged it into the socket behind my bedside table. I dialed information. I asked for the number for Eleanor Stephen in Greenwich Village. They gave it to me. I dialed. 2 rings, 3. Hello? Eleanor? It's Parn? Harriet. There was a silence. Harriet? What? I don't have much time. I need you to listen to me. Everything. Valerie said at my birthday is a lie. They're setting a trap for me. They want to take my property and lock me in a nursing home. Please, I need your help. Another silence. Longer. Harriet. After what happened between us, I know, and you were right. I should have given you those jewels. They were a mistake and foolish pride on my part. But right now, all I'm asking is that you believe me. I was your brother's wife for 40 years, and I swear on Stephen's memory that I am not crazy. My voice broke on that last word. Eleanor. Took a deep breath on the other end of the line. Where are you now? In my house, but they watch me all the time. Can you get out tomorrow at 10 in the morning? Tell them you're going to the doctor or invent something. I'll try. There's a diner on the corner of Kaiswar Park Avenue and University Avenue. The Metropolitan Grill. I'll wait for you there. And Harriet. Bring any important papers you have. Deeds, identification, everything. Thank you, Eleanor. I hung up just as I heard the front door open. Valerie had returned. I quickly disconnected the phone and hid it under my mattress. The next day, at breakfast, I dropped my lie. I need to go to Dr. Miller. My knee is really hurting. Valerie looked up from her coffee. Dr. Miller? I thought you weren't seeing him anymore. He's my doctor of 30 years. I want him to check it. I'll go with you, she said immediately. No, I want to go alone. I can still do some things for myself. Valerie looked at Daniel. He shrugged. Fine, Valerie finally said, but I'll drive you and wait outside. No need, I'll take a cab. I insist. I couldn't argue without raising suspicion. I nodded, but when we got in the car, I gave her a different address. A clinic that was 2 blocks from the Metropolitan Grill. Diner. Valerie dropped me off at the entrance. I'll wait here. Don't be long. I walked into the clinic, crossed the hallway, exited through the back door that led to the parallel street. I walked as fast as I could with my aching knee. 2 blocks had never seemed so long. I arrived at Saiken, the Metropolitan Grill. Sweating, out of breath, but I made it. Eleanor was sitting at a back table. She wasn't alone. Next to her was a young man in his 30s, glasses, a formal suit but no tie, with a laptop open. Harriet, this is Sebastian King. He's a lawyer specializing in elder rights protection. Sebastian stood up and firmly shook my hand. Mrs. Anne Harriet. Eleanor told me about your situation. I need you to tell me everything from the beginning, every detail, every paper you have, and I need you to trust me because what we're going to do has to be fast and precise. I sat down, and for the first time in months, I felt something I had forgotten. Hope. I told Sebastian everything, every humiliation, every lie, the pills they forced me to take, the documents Valerie secretly reviewed, the conversation I overheard that morning about selling everything and locking me up. Sebastian took notes on his laptop, his face growing more serious by the minute. This is elder abuse with premeditation, he said when I finished. And possibly fraud if they've already moved money from your accounts. Did you bring any documents? I pulled out my ID, a copy of the house deed that I kept hidden, and the bank statements from the last 3 months that I had managed to stash away. Sebastian reviewed them carefully. He stopped at one. Here, October 15th, a withdrawal of our 40,000 key. Did you authorize this? Never. I haven't touched that account in months. And this signature? He showed me the withdrawal slip. The handwriting looked like mine, but the curves were different, more rigid. It's not my signature. Sebastian exchanged a look with Eleanor. This is forgery. This is a felony crime. Eleanor placed her hand on mine. Harriet, we have to move fast. They're going to try to make you sign the power of attorney. If you do, it will be much harder to reverse. I won't sign anything. But they're going to pressure you, Sebastian said. Maybe with more threats. Or worse, they might force a judicial incapacitation, claiming you're not in your right mind. Can they do that? With a corrupt doctor who testifies in their favor and witnesses who say you have cognitive decline, yes, that's why we need to act now. Sebastian opened another folder. We're going to do 3 things. First, tomorrow I'm taking you to a certified geriatrician, Dr. Henderson, to get a full psychological and cognitive evaluation. That will prove you're perfectly lucid. Second, we're going to file a criminal complaint for fraud, forgery, and elder abuse. I have contacts at the district attorney's office. With this evidence, they can launch an immediate investigation. Third, we're going to temporarily freeze all your bank accounts. No one will be able to move a dime without your in-person authorization. It all sounded good, but there was a problem. If I do all that, Valerie Petit will notice, and I don't know what they're capable of if they feel cornered. Need to? Eleanor squeezed my hand. That's why you're coming to live with me while we sort this out. I looked at her, surprised. Eleanor, after everything that happened between us, you were my brother's wife, and even though we had foolish differences, you never stopped being family. Stephen loved you until his last day. I'm not going to leave you alone now. My eyes welled up with tears. Sebastian continued, but we have to be smart about it. If you disappear suddenly, they can report you missing and use that as evidence of your supposed mental decline. We need to document everything. He took a small cell phone from his briefcase. Take this. It's a basic prepaid phone with my number programmed in. Hide it very well. If anything happens, call me immediately. I tucked it deep into my purse. In the meantime, Sebastian said, you have to act normal, more than normal, submissive even. Let them think they've broken you. We need time to prepare everything. What if they try to make me sign something? Do not sign anything at all. Say your hand hurts, that you can't see well, invent anything. Every day we gain is one more day of evidence we collect. There's something else, I said, remembering the late-night conversation. Valerie has an accomplice, a man named Richard. They plan to go to Miami Beach together once they have the money. Sebastian's eyes lit up. Richard? Does he have a last name? I don't know, but I can try to find out. If you can get it, we can investigate him. If there are messages, transfers, anything that connects Valerie to him, it strengthens the conspiracy case. Eleanor checked her watch. Harriet, you've been here over 40 minutes. Valerie was going to get suspicious. She was right. I quickly stood up. Sebastian handed me a card. My personal number is on there. Anything, day or night, call me. You are not alone in this, Mrs. Harriet. I hugged Eleanor. Thank you for everything. Stephen would never forgive me if I abandoned you now. I left the diner. I returned to the clinic through the back door. I crossed to the front. Valerie Tafoyakolin was still waiting in the car, looking at her cell phone. I got in. What did the doctor say? That it's arthritis. He prescribed some pills. She started the car without saying anything else. But during the ride, I looked at her out of the corner of my eye, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel fear. I felt power, because now I had a plan too, and she had no idea what was coming. The following days were a constant performance. I took the pills. Valerie gave me and spat them out later. I nodded when they spoke to me. I feigned confusion when it was convenient. I became the submissive old woman they wanted to see. Meanwhile, Sebastian worked in silence. He called me on the hidden cell phone every night to update me. He had secured the evaluation with Dr. Henderson. The results? Mental capacity intact, no signs of cognitive decline. He had the certified and sealed document. He had also traced the bank movements. He found 4 unauthorized withdrawals totaling $150,000. Over the last 3 months, all with forged signatures. And he had filed the criminal complaint. The DA's office already had the file open. But Valerie Dautwain didn't know it. And that gave me the advantage. The day everything exploded was a Tuesday. Tuesday, March 14th. Valerie came into my room with a smile that tried to seem kind but didn't hide her urgency. Harriet, we're going out for lunch today, just you and me, somewhere nice, to talk quietly. Something in her tone put me on alert. Where to? The Gilded Cage. In Beverly Hills. It's elegant, you'll like it. Beverly Hills. Far from my neighborhood, far from any known witnesses. I don't feel like going out. Please. Harriet, we need to sort things out. I know we've had problems, but I only want the best for you. I looked her straight in the eye. I saw something there that chilled my blood. Desperation. Haste. Sebastian had told me to act normal, so I agreed. All right, we arrived at the Gilded Cage. Just after 2 in the afternoon, the restaurant was all glass and white tablecloths, piano music in the background, uniformed waiters. The kind of place where an older woman from the downtown Georgetown feels out of place. They seated us by the window. Valerie ordered for both of us. I ordered lemon water. She ordered sparkling lemonade. We started talking about unimportant things. The weather, the streets, nothing real. Then I saw when she did it. I was looking at the menu. Valerie pulled something out of her purse. A small envelope. With a quick movement, so fast I almost missed it, she emptied something into my lemon water. A white powder that dissolved in seconds. My heart started pounding wildly, but I kept my face calm. I closed the menu. I'm going to the restroom for a moment. Of course, Harriet. I got up, but instead of going to the restroom, I walked over to the waiter at the bar. Excuse me, I think my water tastes strange. Could you bring me another? The waiter nodded, looking puzzled. He took my glass. He discreetly sniffed it. He frowned. I went to the restroom. I locked the door. I took out the cell phone. Sebastian gave me and dialed his number. Mrs. Harriet? Valerie, I'll put something in my drink. I'm the Gilded Cage. I'm in Beverly Hills. I don't know what to do. Don't drink anything. Absolutely nothing. Get out of there now. Can you get out? There's a window here, but use it. I'm sending a patrol car right now. Give me the exact address. I gave it to him. I hung up. I looked at the window. It was small, with decorative bars that, thank goodness, weren't welded shut. I pushed them. They opened. That's when I heard the voice. Ma'am! I turned around, startled. An older woman was at the sink, washing her hands. Short silver hair, glasses, a serious expression. Don't leave yet, she said. She pulled out her ID. I'm Pao Gail Miller, retired forensic nurse. I've been watching you since you arrived. I work as a consultant for family abuse cases. I was paralyzed. Sebastian King contacted me 2 days ago. He asked me to follow you discreetly for security. I saw your daughter-in-law empty that envelope into your drink. I've already photographed it. It's evidence. What was it? I can't confirm without analysis, but by the appearance and context, probably a high-dose benzodiazepine. Mixed with the other medications they've likely been giving you, it could cause respiratory arrest. It would look like a natural death for a woman your age. My legs nearly gave out. Gail held my arm. That's why you have to leave now. I'll stay here. I'm going to ask the manager to save that glass as evidence until the authorities arrive. I scrambled out that window with an agility I didn't know I had. I fell into the alley. I scraped my arm. My hosiery ripped. But I was alive. I flagged down a cab. I gave Eleanor's address. And as I drove away, I saw Valerie rushing out of the restaurant in the rearview mirror, searching for me, the panic finally visible on her perfect face. Now she was the prey, and I, the hunter. I arrived at Eleanor's house, trembling. She hugged me at the door without saying a word. She led me to the sofa. She made me a chamomile tea. It's over, Harriet. It's past. You're safe. Sebastian. Arrived 20 minutes later with Gail. They brought news. The DA's office has the glass with the drink. They sent it for urgent toxicology analysis. The results take 48 hours, but Gail declared as a witness to what she saw. That's enough for a provisional arrest warrant. And Valerie? She fled the restaurant, but she can't go far. We've already frozen all her accounts, and we found something else. Sebastian opened his laptop and turned the screen toward me. It was a bank statement. 3 weeks ago, Valerie's opened an account in your name and a Richard Owen Taylor's. She transferred $95,000 from your account there, Mrs. Homer Harriet, money she took with forged signatures. Who is Richard Owen? A con artist with a record. He was in prison 6 years ago for fraud against the elderly in Scottsdale. Gail investigated a little more. Gail spoke firmly. Richard or Valerie met in an online investment group, a front to recruit accomplices. She's done this before, Mrs. Icas Harriet. In Las Vegas, with a distant aunt. She managed to take $150,000 before the family realized. They never pressed charges out of shame. I felt nauseated. My son. Does Daniel know all this? Sebastian shook his head. We believe he's a victim too. Valerie manipulated him with his gambling debts. She used him to gain access to you. Then we have to act now, I said, before they run off with what's left. We already have. Sebastian smiled. I scheduled Daniel and Valerie for tomorrow morning at 10 at Notary Salazar's office. I told them it was to sign the final power of attorney, that you had finally agreed. And they'll go? They'll go, because they think they've won. The next day, Eleanor helped me get ready. I put on a pantsuit. I hadn't worn since Constevenon's funeral. I put on makeup. I styled my hair with dignity. You look like the woman you were before they came into your life, Eleanor said, her eyes shining. We arrived at the notary's office at 9:30. Sebastian was already there. Also 2 agents from the DA's office in suits, and Gail. At 10 sharp, Daniel and Valerie walked in. Valerie wore an elegant beige dress, heels, her hair perfect. Daniel, a dark suit, a tie. They were smiling. Their smiles froze when they saw me. Mom? Daniel paled. What are you doing here? Valerie said you were at... Sit down, I ordered. It was the first time in months I had used that tone. The tone of the lady of the house, the one who doesn't ask permission. They sat down slowly, confused. Sebastian placed a recorder on the table. This meeting is being recorded for legal purposes. Valerie tried to get up. We don't have to stay for... Sit down, Valerie. My voice cut the air like a knife. Or the agents outside will sit you down themselves. She sat. Her jaw trembled with fury. Sebastian began. Daniel Stephen. and Valerie Mendieta. You are cited here as suspected perpetrators of the crimes of fraud, document forgery, elder abuse, and attempted murder. Daniel went white. What? Valerie glared at him. Shut up. I placed the first document on the table. This is Dr. Henderson's medical report. It certifies that I am in full mental capacity. Everything you said about my cognitive decline was a lie. I placed the second document. These are 4 unauthorized bank withdrawals, $150,000 in total, with forged signatures. The DA's graphologist has confirmed they are fake. Daniel Weiss stared at the papers, speechless. I placed the third document. This is the bank account you opened with Richard Owen, Valerie, your accomplice. The same Richard Owen you plan to run off to Miami Beach with after robbing and locking me up. Valerie clenched her fists. And this? I pulled out the last document. Is the toxicology analysis of the drink you prepared for me on Tuesday. Alprazolam, 18 milligrams, enough to kill someone my age with blood pressure issues. The silence was absolute. Daniel turned to Valerie. You tried to kill her? It was necessary, she hissed. You're too cowardly to... You tried to kill my mother. For you, for your damn debts. Finally, I saw it. My son woke up. He stood up from the table, backing away from said Valerie. As if she burned him. Mom, I didn't know it would go this far. I swear that... We'll talk later, Han, Daniel. My voice was firm but not cruel. Now sit down. He sat. I looked Valerie and straight in the eye. You thought that because I was 68, I would be easy to break, that you could erase me without consequences. I leaned forward. You learned wrong. Age doesn't make you weak. It makes you wiser and more dangerous when you decide to defend yourself. Sebastian nodded. The 2 agents walked in. Valerie Mendieta, you are under arrest. When they led her away in handcuffs, screaming threats, I felt something strange. It wasn't satisfaction. It was peace. The months that followed were like waking up from a long, thick nightmare. Valerie's faced all the charges. The prosecutor built a solid case: attempted murder, fraud, forgery, aggravated elder abuse. Her lawyer tried to negotiate, but the evidence was overwhelming. Gail testified. The toxicological analysis was definitive. Restaurant cameras captured her emptying the envelope into my drink. In the trial, which lasted 3 months, Valerie had maintained her cold, calculating demeanor. She never showed remorse. Not even when the judge delivered the sentence, 12 years in prison without possibility of early parole. Richard Owen was arrested in Cancun trying to board a flight to Colombia. He had $70,000 in cash in a backpack. When he found out Valerie was in prison and broke, he testified against her without a second thought, cowardly until the end. He received 8 years, but the most painful thing was not Valerie's trial. It was facing my son. Daniel came to the Eleanor's house a week after the arrest. He had deep bags under his eyes, an unshaven beard, and trembling hands. Mom, I need to talk to you. Eleanor, too. Left us alone in the living room. I poured him coffee. He didn't even touch it. I don't know where to start, he said, his voice broken. Saying sorry is so small it sounds ridiculous, but it's all I have. I didn't answer. I just looked at him. I was drowning, Mom. The poker debts were overwhelming me. The Molam threatened to break my legs, to come after you. I was scared, and when Valerie had offered me a way out, I clung to her without seeing who she really was. And you didn't see what they were doing to me? My voice came out harder than I intended. Didn't you see how they humiliated me? How they drugged me? How they erased me from my own life? Daniel. started to cry. Tears of an adult man carrying the shame of having betrayed the one person he should have protected the most. I saw it, and I did nothing. I closed my eyes because it was easier than facing the truth. I'm a coward, Mom, the worst kind of coward. There was a long silence, heavy. Valerie used me, he continued. She manipulated me with the debts, with promises, with lies. But that doesn't take away my responsibility. I made the decisions. I abandoned you when you needed me most. He wiped his tears with the back of his hand. I haven't come to ask you to forgive me. I don't have that right. I've come to tell you that I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be the man I should have been, the son you deserved. I looked at him. I saw the child he was, the rebellious teenager, the broken man in front of me, and I made a decision. Daniel, I'm going to give you something, not because you deserve it, but because despite everything, you're still my son. I pulled out an envelope I had prepared. Inside was a check for $225,000. This is for you to pay your debts. For moi, the mole to leave you alone, for you to have a break and be able to start over. Daniel looked at the check in disbelief. Mom, I can't accept this. After everything. It's not a gift, I interrupted. It's a loan. You're going to pay me back with your work, with your effort. No interest, but with responsibility. And we're going to sign a legal promissory note before a notary. Yes, whatever you say. But there are conditions. You're going to go to therapy. You're going to attend Gamblers Anonymous. You're going to get an honest job and keep it. And when you've paid the last penny of this debt, when you've proven to me with actions, not words, that you've changed, then we can start rebuilding what was broken. What if I fail? Then you will have lost your mother forever. This is your only chance, Daniel. There is no second one. He nodded, tears falling onto the check. I won't fail you, Mom. I swear on my father's memory. Oaths are proven over time, and I have plenty of time to see if you're a man of your word. He stood up to hug me. I stopped him with my hand. Not yet, honey. Hugs are earned. First, the actions. He left that room with the check and a burden that I hoped would make him grow up. As for my properties, Sebastian would help me create a trust administered by him and Eleanor. The commercial spaces would continue to be rented. The house would remain in my name until my death, after which it would pass to Baton Daniel. Only if he complied with the conditions of the will we signed, to be sober, debt-free, with stable employment for at least 5 years. And with part of the rent income, I created something that Stephen would have liked. The Stephen King Foundation for Elder Protection. A legal, psychological, and financial refuge for elderly victims of family abuse. Because no one else should live what I lived. 2 years have passed since that afternoon at the Gilded Cage. 2 years since I escaped through a bathroom window, saving my life. Today I am 70 years old, newly turned, and I swear these 2 years have been more fulfilling than the previous 10 combined. I moved back to my old house in Georgetown a year ago. Eleanor Gee helped me clean it, remove everything Valerie had brought, and restore its soul. I painted the walls light yellow, the color Stephen Ock loved. I planted new rose bushes in the courtyard. I reclaimed my spaces. The house smells of freshly brewed coffee and Danish pastries again in the mornings. It fills with the sound of old jazz in the afternoons. It's a home again, not a prison. Eleanor visits me 3 times a week. We drink coffee in the courtyard and talk about everything. It turns out we have more in common than we thought. We laugh at how we wasted years fighting over jewels that ultimately didn't matter. The lost time hurts more than any object. Stephen Hugh would be happy to see us like this, she told me one afternoon. He always wanted us to be friends. He was right about many things. I replied. Ruth also came back into my life. When she found out everything that happened, she cried with me for an hour. She told me Valerie had told her I didn't want to see her, that I was sick and not receiving visitors. Ruth, unknowingly, was also a victim of the lies. Now we have lunch together every Friday. She brings her apple pie. I make the me iced coffee, and we talk about life, just like before. Gail. The nurse who saved me that day became more than a witness. She became a friend, a counselor, and the coordinator of the Stephen King Foundation. Her experience with abuse cases is invaluable. Every month we handle between 10 and 15 cases. Every elder we rescue is a victory against cruelty. 3 weeks ago, a 72-year-old woman came to the foundation, trembling. Her daughter had emptied her accounts and threatened to institutionalize her if she made a fuss. I told her my full story. I showed her that it is possible to get out. I introduced her to Sebastian. Now she too is reclaiming her life. You gave me hope, she told me with tears in her eyes. No, my dear, you already had it. You just needed someone to remind you that you have the right to defend it. And Daniel. My son kept his word. He paid his debts to the mole. In 6 months, by working double shifts as an accountant at a tax firm, he religiously attends Gamblers Anonymous every Tuesday and Thursday. He hasn't gambled a single dollar in 18 months. He goes to therapy with a psychologist who helps him understand why he allowed himself to be manipulated, why he chose cowardice over love. He visits me on Sundays. He arrives at 11 with flowers for his father's altar. We have breakfast together. We talk. And slowly, very slowly, we are rebuilding something. A month ago, after breakfast, he was silent for a long time. Then he looked at me. Mom, I've paid off half the debt. And I want you to know that every dollar I give you back isn't just money. It's my way of telling you I'm changing, that I'm trying. I looked him in the eyes. I saw something different there. Humility, responsibility, healing pain. I got up, I walked toward him, and for the first time in 2 years, I hugged him. He cried on my shoulder like when he was a child who had fallen in the courtyard. I'm getting you back, honey, I whispered. Slowly, but I'm getting you back. I don't know if we'll ever be what we were. Maybe not. Maybe we'll build something different, more mature, more honest. Time will tell. But today I can say that I have peace. Every morning I wake up in my own bed, in my own house, surrounded by my things. I drink my coffee looking at the rose bushes in the courtyard. I hear the birds singing, and I am grateful. I am grateful to be alive. I am grateful to have had the courage to defend myself. I am grateful to Eleanor, to Sebastian, to Gail, to every person who reached out to me when I needed it most. Stephen always told me, Harriet, you have the soul of an oak. You might bend in the wind, but you'll never break. It took me 68 years to fully understand it. They bent me. They humiliated me. They almost broke me. But I remained standing. And today, at 70, I can say with my head held high, I am stronger than ever. Because I learned that true wealth is not in property, nor in money, nor in deeds hidden in a drawer. True wealth is in the dignity you don't allow them to take, in the self-respect you give yourself, in knowing that as long as you have a voice, no one will silence you, and in remembering, always remembering, that it is never too late to defend yourself. Never. And you, who stayed with me until the end of this story, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt like someone was trying to steal your dignity? Have you had to defend yourself against those you thought loved you? Leave your comment below. Tell me where you are watching from. And if this story touched your heart, give it a like and subscribe to keep sharing real testimonies of people who refuse to be defeated. Because we all deserve to be heard. We all deserve justice. and we all, regardless of age, deserve to live with dignity. Thank you for being here. See you in the next story.